who does really need to wipe code? Engineer sitting at a Fortune 500 company, do they need to wipe code? No.
Whether a senior engineer wants to wipe code or not.
Yeah.
I don't agree entirely with you on that.
An engineer doesn't need to depend on the product manager to tell them, hey, this is what you should build.
And the reverse.
Yes.
Any advice you have for PMs to make engineers like them?
You can build a to-do list, you can build a website, like an internal app with vibes, but you can't really maintain a 50 million lines of code.
How do you think these roles of engineering and product are going to change? Hello everyone, welcome to the Airtribe podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Aditi, who is the co-founder and CEO of PotPie, which recently raised a good round of funding. So we will talk more about that. But yeah, Aditi, welcome to the Airtribe podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll get started with what PotPie does in very simple language.
All right. So PotPie enables spec-driven development for large code bases in enterprises. You might wonder what is spec-driven development.
Yes, what is spec-driven development?
Yeah, so traditionally how code is written is that, you come up with a feature, you break it down into tasks, you create tickets, you write code, you develop, and then probably, or sometimes not, you document what has been done. So documentation and everything around what has been done is, done in retrospective and not proactively. Spec-driven development is completely the opposite of it. You start with a spec, which is a detailed document of what has to be built and what are the functional requirements, what are the technical guardrails, any constraints, everything about that has to be written as code. And that becomes the source of truth. So now you have one single document, which is the source of truth, instead of it being your code. Right? So that is what spec-driven development is.
This spec you are talking about, is it technical spec that is part of the engineering team, or is it the spec which is part of the product team? Because in many product teams, they call PRDs a spec.
Right.
Which spec are we talking about here?
So definitely not PRD, but it is a highly technical spec, but it should also include business constraints and business logic, because that is what enables, the entire premise of the feature that is going to be built.
Can you take an example of a feature at a company for which they will have to think about, okay, first we have to get the spec ready before we start development?
Yeah, sure. Let's say you are integrating a payment gateway for enabling payments in any, consumer first app, right? So when you are writing a technical spec, you have to consider, is there an existing payment gateway that is integrated in the org by some other team? Should we consider the same provider? Is there a reason for considering an alternative provider? Why? What are the constraints we should go forward with? What are the payment methods we would be enabling? How would the integration go about? Which services would it interact with? And all of this followed by what kind of tests you are going to perform. How would the user experience be? So everything comes together in that single spec, and it becomes the source of truth, not your code.
How do these engineers and agents collaboration come into place with PotPie?
Right. I think an agent is as good as the context it has, right? So so far what we have seen with agents, the code base is the source of truth. So the agent would reference to the code base, you would create an index of it, you would probably do something like a grep or a semantic search, or create a knowledge graph, which is what we do. And that would provide the context to the agent. But not often everything is present in your code base. A lot of context is probably in, an engineer's head, or people who have left the company, or lying around in different documents, spreadsheets, business logic that is on spreadsheets, your tickets, your logs. So context is fragmented across all these places. How do you bring it together in one place today is the spec. So it's It's not like I want to fix documentation as a problem. At PotPie, we want to create a single source of truth, both for engineers and agent. Because if the agent has the right context, a lot of problems get solved. First of all, accuracy is better. You can still work with smaller context windows if you have accurate context, right? So all those constraints are pretty well solved with this approach. It also helps us create a far more efficient knowledge graph, which is, I would say in simple terms, a holistic understanding of your entire engineering context.
Okay, so there are a couple of things we will have to uncover here.
Sure.
But before that, who is the primary user for this? An engineer?
It is an engineer, but specifically working at a company which has a large code base. By large, I mean something, that is at least over 500,000 lines of code.
Okay.
And is doing brownfield development, so building on existing software and maintaining it. We do not encourage users to build products from scratch on PotPie. While it can do it, the product really shines well for brownfield development in large code bases, which is usually in enterprise companies.
What's brownfield development?
Okay, so development can be classified as greenfield development and brownfield development. So greenfield is anything new, so you build it from scratch.
Okay.
Brownfield is the harder part because it's like building on an existing, let's say if you're an architect and you had to start something from scratch, that's greenfield, right? You create the blueprint, you create the entire structure, how you want to proceed. But brownfield would be working on an existing building where already 10 architects have worked.
Okay, understood.
And you have to figure out, the underlying wiring of it, what pipelines have been constructed, and make sure you don't mess anything up. So that's brownfield, that's harder, that's, I would say, definitely non-trivial because you have to have context of what has happened in the past.
Understood. When you say agent, is it a PotPie agent here?
Yeah. So PotPie has its own harness and agent orchestration. So we build custom agents to enable spec-driven development. So these are agents that are very specialized to a given task, and they are created on demand. So every time you ask PotPie to do something, it understands the task, it breaks it down into smaller parts, plans the entire process of developing code for those particular phases and tasks, and then creates agents on demand that are only supposed to perform that specific task. This helps in bringing higher accuracy by limiting the context that one agent should have.
How is it different from, let's say, using something like Cloud Code or Codex for that matter?
Right. There are multiple differences, but just categorizing them all. Number one, basis the use cases. We focus more on non-trivial use cases like debugging, especially across services, writing integration tests, writing service level tests. These are very complicated things to do, and in most orgs you would see a senior engineer doing it because these are like legacy code bases, very large in scale. We started with 500K, but the scale today we operate with most of our customers is over 50 million lines of code. I would say tools like Codex and Cloud Code focus more on coding. We focus on brownfield maintenance a lot more. Our USP is helping in non-trivial tasks for large code bases which are brownfield in nature. The other thing that we do is build a knowledge graph. So from a technical positioning point of view, all the other players in the market, they give context to an agent by performing things like grep or semantic search. And what we do is build a knowledge graph. If I were to give you a very simple analogy to understand the difference, it's like with semantic search, it's like, or with grep specifically, it's let's say there is a maze and you want to reach to the end of it. So you start traversing the maze. Every time you hit a dead end, you change your path and
Correct.
You try something else. So that is what grep and semantic search help you with. What a knowledge graph does is that it takes a snapshot, like a 10,000 feet view of the maze, and it finds the most optimal path. And then it traverses, it only starts traversing through that path. So that way we are more context efficient, which enables us in solving very complicated use cases like debugging.
What I'm curious about now is how did you come up with the idea?
I think it has been a journey. Like, this did not come to me and my co-founder like over a single night, right? We both have been very passionate about engineering in general, like software engineering, and we highly respect software engineers. Like, we have been one, both of us, and when you love a certain field so much, and at the same time you also want to start a company, it's a very natural consequence of both of those things coming together to build a developer tool. So the first step was us agreeing on, yes, we want to build something for software developers. At that time, GPT-3 had just come out.
Which year are we talking about now?
This is somewhere 2022 and 2023.
Okay.
So during that time.
You were exploring back then?
Yeah, I was exploring.
Okay.
And I wanted to enable generative AI for software developers. So generative AI was being enabled for every knowledge worker. My question was, how do we enable it for software developers? And with that, I started thinking about, what are the challenges if today I want to give all my context to a LLM, what are the challenges I would face? I mean, at that time, LLMs weren't good at understanding code bases, because again, code bases are just not limited to, like, they are not plain text, they are hierarchical information, interconnected systems, there are relationships between functions, classes, files. So unless an LLM was made to understand all of that, it's very difficult to generate any inference, any meaningful inference for that matter. And we started with that problem statement, and we were like, is there a way we could represent the code base in a graphical manner? Because if we can track the relationships in a system, then we can generate good inferences. And that is how we came up with the idea to build something for, particularly software engineers and make their life easier.
How do you identify yourself? More as a product manager or a software engineer before becoming a founder?
So honestly, what I thought about product management when I was a product manager versus today, like, my definition of product management has changed a lot.
What changed?
So I think when I was a PM and I was a product manager till the year 2022, so there was a clear distinction between the strategist and the doer. So the person who would think and the person who would do were two different people. And not saying that I totally agreed with that, because funnily enough, I have written production code in every PM role that I have had. So I even though I was a product manager, I missed writing codes. I always ended up figuring out a way to be able to ship some code in the company.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like a fan of that distinguishedness that was there. Today that gap is almost zero. Like, the person who thinks is the person who wants to build, and the person who is building has enough room to experiment with multiple ideas. So, room for experimentation, time for experimentation has reduced, right? So
what changed?
The fact that now there are LLMs that help you, polish your ideas better, write code faster, wipe code. You can experiment so much faster, right? Like, an engineer doesn't need to depend on the product manager to tell them, hey, this is what you should build. Like information.
And the reverse.
Yes.
And the reverse is also true, right?
Information is not a leverage today. Like, I mean, I would have my developers come and ask me, hey, what are the fundamentals of user experience that we are missing in the app today? And as a PM, I would tell them, because that was my job. But today, everything's available in like seconds. Like, you don't even need to find the best article. You can just ask ChatGPT and you get like good enough answers, right?
Yeah.
And for the product managers, no one's stopping them to build. So the gap is zero today, like, between the strategist and the doer.
I found it fascinating when you said in every product role that you had, you also shipped code to production.
Yes.
How did that happen? In most companies, that's not the expectation of the leadership
Yeah.
or the way teams have been organized until now.
Right.
I'm aware of companies now where PMs and even designers are shipping code, particularly in the last 3-4 months.
Right.
But I wasn't aware of this happening unless a role itself was a technical PM role. So how did you convince, and also if you can give me and if you can share a story of how did you go about convincing your team that you could do it.
Sure. I think I didn't have to convince, regardless of the size of the organization that I worked at. All of them had 0 to 1 projects, and luckily enough, I was mapped to, every time I worked at a company, I was mapped to a 0 to 1 project. And you would know this, any 0 to 1 project always has resource constraints.
Yes.
So if somebody is volunteer that, hey, I will contribute to writing code, nobody is going to say no, because the cost of saying no is much higher than letting someone experiment here. Also, the precursor to vibe coding was no code tools, and no one would know this better than you, because you also ran a cohort for no code tools, and where you taught a lot of aspiring builders how
you were the instructor.
Yes.
The year was 2021.
21 and 2. We did 2 cohorts.
Yeah, 21, 22.
Yes.
Long back.
Yes. So I think because I used to, play around so much with no-code tools, when I said I wrote production code, I didn't have to build everything from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Like I could build internal tooling on Retool. I could build websites on Webflow. I could run automations using Zapier. So, a lot of those, like my mindset was very much like a hacker. It's like, how do I get this done faster? How do I build to the MVP stage so that we can at least figure out if this new product is going to work? So I think that's how I got the opportunity to do that. Also, the other thing that worked was just being friends with engineers. If they like you, if your engineering team likes you, I think they just make you more involved. It's just simple fundamentals of relationship building.
Any advice you have for PMs to make engineers like them?
Just don't look at them as like a different team. I think there is, in a lot of companies, when the company starts growing, and I've seen this happen personally in my experience as well, there's always this blame game going on. If something is not shipped, okay, the engineering team was delayed, or the product team did not give the PRD on time, or the requirements were changed, everyone's pointing fingers, forgetting that they all are working towards the same goal. So it's nothing complicated. It's really simple. Empathize with your colleagues. Okay, fine. Somebody dropped a ball. It's okay. We all are humans. There's absolutely no company, whether it's a 10-member or a 1,000-member team, that doesn't make mistakes from time to time. So just knowing that there is room to make mistakes and empathizing with your colleagues improves the relationship a lot.
Yeah. One more thing that I noticed on the PotPie website, you guys took an early decision to go open source. It's an open source platform, right? If I understood correctly. Why did you take this path?
I think broadly 2 reasons. One comes from a purely emotional point here, that we really, really love engineers. Also having been one. So we wanted the community to, collaborate, give feedback, and for a company that was building, without any funding in its early days, the best way to, get quick feedback, get help from the community and build faster is by doing an open source project. So we always looked at it as a dev first approach instead of trying to build an enterprise company from day zero. Also, from a very strategic point of view, it helped us bypass a lot of questions around, security. our code is open source. Like what we say is what you can check, right?
Yeah.
But as we evolved as a company, today part of our code is proprietary, a part of it is open source. The idea is to keep the open source project in a way that it can be meaningfully used by a developer and also contributed to. So our code infra is open source today.
Okay, understood. And any disadvantages of taking a taking a path like open source? Because I feel there are always these two types of companies when it comes to developer tools. One is all proprietary and the other all open source. You are saying the core infrastructure is open source.
Yeah.
But there are elements which are proprietary.
Right.
But anyone who wants to use PotPie in their company, they can go with the open source version, right?
Yeah.
Any disadvantages of taking a path like this?
I think if you would have asked me this question pre-Gen AI, I would have said maybe yes. But today, I think whatever we have in open source, a great engineer around the world can also build it.
Okay.
So I don't think that the code is what we are selling and that we should gatekeep it. I think any smart engineer can build it, if I'm being very honest. What we are selling is the experience, like, how the user interacts with the product. So it goes back to the, basics of selling SaaS. Like, what is the moat in SaaS? Anyone can build, any SaaS tool out there, right? Any great engineer can. But the experience, the service quality, the scale, the maintenance is something that is hard to replicate, especially without a team. So I think we are not trying to gatekeep our code. If an engineer wants to build something, and a lot of people have across the world, like almost every week we hear from multiple people that, hey, we used your open source product to build something on top of it. And that genuinely makes us happy because that is a great validation for our product. But we need to start distinguishing the code from the product. That is very important because the code is no more a leverage. Your code is something that can be easily replicated by anybody in the world today if they want to, if they're curious enough and smart enough. So code is not what we sell. We sell an experience which is hard to replicate because that is something that is purely coming from our minds. So you can't replicate how I think and my team thinks. You can definitely replicate our code, but not the thinking and the experience we give.
Very, very good point. When you say anyone can build, I think you are trying to hint at vibe coding. What has really transformed in the last few months, I think since Opus 4.5 release around November, December, I think things have changed. Prior to that, people were like, okay, AI can help you with this, that, but it cannot help you do serious projects. But now it builds the whole context of your repo and starts working with it right away. What are your thoughts on vibe coding?
I think it's a very well marketed approach, first of all. Like, we all live in, the X bubble or the Twitter bubble where everyone is a fan of vibe coding, but there is a much larger market outside that bubble, right? Where people are, working on enterprise projects, not trusting AI so much. It's not like the whole world is using vibe coding. So I would say, yeah, it is a very well marketed product, but often misunderstood. If product or approach here, often misunderstood because I think the expectation that is set to, the common audience here is that you give a prompt and you expect that magically your app will appear. While that may work for, trivial apps, simple projects, starting from scratch, it doesn't work for an existing complicated system, which is what an enterprise code base is. Also, we need to understand who does really need to vibe code. Like an engineer sitting at a Fortune 500 company, do they need to vibe code? No, I don't think so at all today. But let's say a SMB business owner wants to build a custom app and is restricted by the tooling that's available today, wants to just do something on their own, should they vibe code? Yes, absolutely. That is also why I feel that the vibe coding market is exactly the market that Shopify has. So I think Shopify is the best company positioned today to enable a vibe coding product, because
For their merchants.
For their merchants, for everybody who's using Shopify, basically. I think if somebody is building a website using a prompt today, or a simple app using a prompt, it only matters if they are able to make money out of it. And the company that comes to my mind which enables this today is Shopify, right? Obviously, it doesn't help you vibe code, but given they are already doing like multi-billion in revenue, they are rightly positioned to build a vibe coding tool, because then it directly is attributed to the revenue that a small to medium business would be making.
Yeah.
So just building apps and paying $40 for doing that is not good enough. Like, sure, you are hosting something, but it should make you money at the end of the day.
For a Fortune 500 company, whether a senior engineer wants to wipe code or not,
Yeah.
I don't agree entirely with you on that. It was probably different last year when we were talking about, let's say, a Lovable or a Ripple to build basic apps.
Right.
But to the best of my knowledge, like I have an engineer at Anthropic from my college. I was speaking to him last week, and they are using Cloud Code to build all the projects there. It's a large enterprise company, and it's also a frontier AI lab. They are literally using Cloud Code to build Cloud Code.
Yeah.
Using vibe coding only. Vibe coding is what? Like, instead of writing code, you are giving clear instructions to the agent to build the software for you. So I don't believe anymore that it cannot do large scale software production. Even if it requires a lot of guardrails and systems to be built around it, which is also something that you are doing at PotPie. But I'm just saying, people were not taking it very seriously until last year because the tools and the technology was not there yet. But what has happened in the last 3 to 4 months, and also my own personal experience, it's not a landing page that I was able to build.
Right.
I was able to build a platform for anyone to build their own agents using vibe coding. That was a massive project for me. It took many days. It didn't take one prompt. It didn't take just a few hours of sitting before, let's say, a Cloud Code or something. I had to go through the whole Cloud Code capabilities, the documentation. I had to understand the whole Slack platform ecosystem.
Right.
It took a bit of time, but it worked. And if a group of senior engineers at a large company decide to make their next big project using vibe coding, and they have the right kind of guardrails to ensure that the compliance, the security, everything is taken care of, I think it is doable now. And even if parts of it are not doable, with the next model release, that will happen. That's the exponential trajectory we are seeing with all these model updates.
I don't disagree with you, but I do disagree with the definition of vibe coding. What you are talking about is not vibe coding. Like, I think vibe coding.
I think the definition has changed.
Then I wouldn't like to call it vibe coding. Like, the whole idea of vibe coding is that you rely on vibes, right?
Just
you don't
give it to your vibes.
Yeah. So you are not and what you are describing is, and how also the fact that Cloud Code built Cloud Code using itself. I think that is being very specific and intentional while coding. When you are vibe coding, you are not that intentional. The fact that Cloud Code has enabled agents, MD, skills, all of these things, it means that the developer wants to be more specific, wants to be more intentional, which is not relying on vibes. So when I say that engineer at enterprise wouldn't want to vibe code, it means they don't want things happening in the black box. When the streaming of an agent's action happens, like you see how they are thinking, what files an agent is fetching, what actions they are going to take. an engineer likes that visibility. They don't want it in a black box. But the other market I was talking about, the whole Shopify market doesn't care. They are the ones who should vibe code because they're not engineers. It is not their craft. Their craft is running the business, which I'm sure they do very well. But understanding how an app works and trying to get into the nuances of it doesn't matter to them. So I think there is a very clear distinction that can be made over here, that the non-technical people can vibe code and build like simple apps. For non-trivial tasks, you still have to be very specific with your approach.
On your website, you have written, vibes don't scale.
Right.
And this was the funniest part of an enterprise website that I have seen in a while. Vibes don't scale. What did you mean there? Is it related to this whole discussion around senior engineers not trusting vibes? What do you mean?
I literally mean what is written. I think engineers in enterprise companies working on mission critical stuff, let's say the software is attached to a hardware product, which if fails, causes a lot of money lost, right? Something like that, right? You can't just put a generic prompt and trust, pray to the tool that everything would work out, right? What engineers like to do is be very specific with what they want. That also increases their trust in the tool, whatever tool they are using to deliver exactly what they are looking for. So that's why there's so much around, getting the prompts right, getting your skills MD file right, getting your guardrails, your constraints right? Whatever your convention is, all of that. So when you have to be that specific and that aware of what's happening, even though the code is written by an agent, you really can't trust vibes. So that is what I mean, that vibes don't scale. Sure, you can build a to-do list, you can build a website, you can build an internal app with vibes, but you can't really maintain a 50 million lines of code.
What's the difference between being a product manager versus a founder?
Oh, a lot of difference. I think if I had to do justice to this question, it would take me 6 hours of continuous speaking.
You have 60 seconds.
I mean, okay, just by stating the fundamentals, you are responsible for a company. You're responsible for even the most trivial thing like compliance, and the most important thing like your staff, hiring, other people's career, and obviously the core thing, making a sustainable business. As a product manager, you are just thinking about the product you are working on. You don't have to worry about paying salaries or making sure your taxes are filed. So many things come into the picture, and you have to wear multiple hats. For probably 2 months in a year, you are planning your fundraise. How do you go about doing it strategically, doing it fast so that it doesn't take a lot of your time?
And you also mentioned forward deployed engineers. That's a new class of
Right.
engineers I keep hearing about. I think it was probably popularized by Palantir in the US, but now there are so many companies where I see these roles emerging. Can you share with us what is forward deployed engineer?
Yeah.
And which kind of companies need that?
I think in very simple terms, any company that is deploying their software on the customer's premises should have a forward deployed engineer. It helps the customer get a customized version of your software, also helps in regularly maintaining it. So it's a more customer facing role where your software is tailor made for that particular customer, and the FD leads that whole initiative.
What do they do? Do they have to go to the office of the customers? Why is it called forward deployed?
That's a great question. Depends. I mean, a lot of things happen remotely. We work with companies ranging from mid-market to Fortune 500. So for one of the Fortune 500 companies, we had to get their badge, like the ID card, their laptop, because we are not supposed to be using our systems for their deployment. So the forward deployed engineer typically would be in touch, direct touch with the team, help in deploying an instance of PotPie into their cloud, and customize it. For example, we are model agnostic. So if somebody wants to use a certain model with the product and they already have a router or like an API integration with the model provider, we would enable all of that. So there's the customization part of it.
Understood. Very interesting. So this role does make sense for products like this, like particularly when a company is building a product for enterprises. These roles start making sense, and also I feel the way the whole industry is evolving, where there is this concept of outcome as a service. One of our lead investors he keeps talking about this, that why more and more companies will care about outcome and not necessarily software. Something like this makes perfect sense there.
And also outcome based pricing is picking up because of the same reason.
Yeah, both are, I think,
connected,
tied together. Yeah. So when you think about people who spent years in engineering colleges, learning software engineering, now wanting to build a career in tech or product, how do you think these roles of engineering and product are going to change this year and beyond, and how should they prepare for it?
So just to clarify, you mean students who are just graduating?
I mean
or anybody?
Both students and early career people in these technical roles. How should they think about their career going forward, and how are these roles going to change from here, according to you?
Got it. I think the first thing is very important to unlearn everything. Like, we have been in schools and colleges, and even if somebody did postgrad, we have been taught to follow a structure. Following a structure will only take you so far in life, and especially with knowledge and information not being a leverage anymore, the structure doesn't really help. So just unlearning all of that and having a forward-looking approach, that being open to understanding new technologies, being more curious, will help a lot. Specifically for engineers, I think being very, I would say, comfortable with the new age tools is very important, because it's not about whether they can code without the tools or not, it's about whether they can do it faster. And if there is a way to do things faster, then you should be the first one to adopt it. For product managers, I would say the PM role will only be relevant if they have a specific knowledge about a domain. So if you are working in payments, you should understand how the money moves across the world, what infrastructures are involved. If you are in supply chain, then understand the nuances of it. So specific knowledge is something that will make a difference. Just being a generalist PM has no meaning anymore. Like, I don't think we need generalist PMs, we need domain experts now.
So Aditi, we'll do a small rapid fire now. I have just a few questions to ask. Favorite book?
The Kite Runner.
Favorite movie?
Tough one, but Interstellar.
Nice. Favorite product tool? Don't say PotPie.
I'd say Whisper lately.
Whisper Flow?
Yes.
Okay. Favorite beverage?
Diet Coke.
Favorite place in Bangalore?
My office.
Favorite city?
San Francisco.
Nice. Thank you so much, Aditi, for coming to the pod. It was fun talking to you again.
Likewise.
And I learned so much about this whole space, and I really hope our audience will find it very insightful. Anybody who is a product builder or wants to become a product builder or a founder for that matter, I think there is so much to learn from her journey. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and lovely questions.
Thank you so much.